You ever notice how some people can't help but flaunt every little win they have? Whether it's posting every achievement on social media or bragging about their latest promotion, it's like they're addicted to attention. But here's the thing. The louder you are about your success, the more vulnerable you become. I used to think sharing every milestone would motivate others or even inspire them. But I learned the hard way. When everyone knows your business, it opens the door to judgment, envy, and even sabotage. Today, we're going deep into the Stoic rules for keeping your success secret and safe. These aren't just your average stay humble tips. These are practical, time-tested lessons that the greatest minds in history used to protect their wins while quietly building their empire. Trust me, if you're serious about maintaining what you've earned without the noise, these rules will change the game. And let me be real for a second. I didn't always follow these rules. I've been that person who shared too much, and it backfired in ways I didn't expect. So, if you're ready to keep your success low-key but unstoppable, stick with me. By the end of this, you'll know exactly how to protect what you've worked for without putting a target on your back. Let's dive in. 1. Keep your goals to yourself. I used to be that person who couldn't wait to tell everyone about my big plans. I'd announce my ambitious goals to friends, family, and even co-workers, thinking that by telling them, I'd be holding myself accountable. But you know what? I quickly realized that talking about my goals gave me a false sense of accomplishment, like I had already achieved something, even though I hadn't done a single thing to move forward. The more I talked about my goals, the less motivated I felt to actually put in the work. It was as if sharing my plans tricked my brain into thinking I'd already made progress, when in reality, nothing had changed. The Stoics, especially Epictetus, warned against this. They believed in action over words. You can plan and discuss all you want, but until you start doing the work, you're not any closer to success. What I've learned is that when you keep your goals to yourself, something powerful happens. Instead of wasting energy seeking validation or approval from others, you focus all that energy on the actual process of achieving your goal. You're not doing it for the applause or recognition. You're doing it for yourself, for the satisfaction that comes with accomplishing something real. One of the most valuable things I've realized is that nobody cares about your ambitions as much as you do. People may nod politely, give you a pat on the back, or even express excitement for you, but at the end of the day, they move on. It's your goal, and only you are responsible for making it happen. Keeping it to yourself not only protects your goal from outside judgment or negativity, but also strengthens your internal motivation. You're doing it because it matters to you, not because you want to impress others. The next time you feel the urge to share your big plans, take a step back. Ask yourself if sharing will actually help you achieve your goal, or if it's just a way to feel good in the moment. Silence can be your greatest ally, giving you the space and focus you need to succeed. 2. Don't seek validation before you've earned it. I used to crave validation. Whenever I'd start a new project or set a new goal, I'd go out of my way to tell people about it, hoping for a good job or a "that's amazing." It felt good to hear those words, but eventually I realized that I was seeking approval before I had actually done anything worth celebrating. The Stoics, especially Seneca, would have been quick to point out how flawed this approach was. Here's the thing. Seeking validation prematurely is like trying to enjoy the fruit before you've even planted the tree. Sure, it feels nice to get that positive reinforcement, but it's empty if you haven't put in the effort yet. It's easy to fall into the trap of relying on others to boost your confidence when, in reality, the only validation that matters is the one you earn through hard work and perseverance. I've learned that true confidence comes from within, from knowing that you're doing the work and making progress, even if no one else notices. When you stop seeking validation from others, you free yourself from the constant need for approval. You no longer feel the pressure to impress people or prove yourself. Instead, you focus on the task at hand and the internal satisfaction that comes from knowing you're on the right path. There's something incredibly powerful about working in silence without the need for external recognition. It's like you're building something secret and personal, and the only person who needs to know about it is you. And when you finally achieve what you set out to do, that success is yours alone. You don't owe it to anyone else's validation or praise. If you're constantly looking for approval before you've even made real progress, stop. Trust in the process, trust in your ability to deliver, and let your actions speak louder than any words of praise ever could. 3. Let your actions speak. For a long time, I believed that if people knew about the hard work I was putting in, they would respect me more. So I made it a point to tell others about my efforts, the late nights, the sacrifices, the grind. I thought the more people knew, the more they would appreciate my hustle. But over time, I learned something important. Nobody cares about what you say you're doing. What really matters is what you actually do. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, didn't walk around talking about how great his discipline was. He simply lived it. He believed that your actions should be enough proof of your character. In fact, there's something powerful about letting your results do the talking without needing to explain yourself. I realized that talking about my hard work wasn't making me more successful. It was actually draining my energy. Every time I told someone about what I was planning to achieve, it felt like I was sharing a piece of my drive with them, leaving me with less to actually fuel my journey. But when I stopped talking about my work and focused on doing it, things started to change. I became more productive, more focused, and more determined. Letting your actions speak for themselves also adds a layer of humility to your journey. It means you're not doing things for the spotlight, for the applause, or for the recognition. You're doing them because they matter to you. And when the results finally show, whether it's a business milestone, a personal achievement, or a fitness goal, people will notice. And the best part, you won't need to explain a thing. If you're serious about your success, stop narrating your every move. Focus on putting in the work and let your results be your proof. When you succeed, the people who doubted you will notice. And those who believed in you, they'll respect you even more because you didn't just talk the talk, you walked the walk. 4. Avoid the temptation to brag. We all want to feel appreciated for our achievements. It's natural. But one of the most important lessons I've learned from Stoicism is that bragging about your success can do more harm than good. The Stoics warned against arrogance and self-importance, and for good reason. The moment you start bragging about your achievements, you lose the quiet power that comes from humility. There was a time when I would openly share my successes, thinking it would motivate others or make them see me in a better light. But what I didn't realize was that it often made people feel uncomfortable or even envious. Instead of inspiring people, my bragging distanced them from me. The more I bragged, the more I realized that I was doing it for external validation rather than internal satisfaction. The Stoic approach is to avoid boasting and to remain humble in the face of success. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, reminded us that we should never be swayed by external praise or criticism. What matters is how we feel about our own efforts, not how others perceive them. When you achieve something great, it's not about making others aware of it. It's about knowing that you've grown, that you've succeeded on your own terms. When you resist the temptation to brag, you retain a sense of quiet strength. People may not know everything you've accomplished, but when they do find out, they'll respect you even more because you didn't feel the need to flaunt it. You're confident in your abilities, and that confidence doesn't require an audience. There's something powerful about being the person who achieves success but doesn't boast about it. Someone whose actions are noticed without having to shout them from the rooftops. The next time you're tempted to brag about an achievement, take a step back. Ask yourself, am I doing this for me, or am I doing this to impress others? Instead of seeking external validation, find satisfaction in knowing that you've accomplished something meaningful, and that's enough. 5. Don't seek validation from others. I used to be obsessed with what other people thought of me, especially when I hit a new milestone. Whether it was a career success, a fitness goal, or even a personal victory, I wanted the world to know. I craved validation, likes on social media, compliments from friends, and acknowledgement from my peers. But over time, I realized that this constant need for validation was holding me back from true fulfillment. Stoicism taught me that seeking approval from others is a waste of time and energy. Epictetus often emphasized that the only validation that truly matters comes from within. What others think of your success or your failures is beyond your control, and when you base your sense of worth on their opinions, you're giving away your power. I began to understand that the pursuit of external validation was leading me down a path of superficiality. Instead of enjoying my successes for what they were, I was more focused on how others perceived them. I wasn't living for myself, I was living for the applause. But Stoic wisdom challenged me to shift my focus inward. Marcus Aurelius put it best: the approval of such men, who do not even stand well in their own eyes, has no value for me. When I stopped seeking validation from others, something incredible happened. I started finding deeper satisfaction in my achievements. I no longer needed to post about every success or wait for someone to compliment my progress. My accomplishments felt more personal, more meaningful, because they were driven by my internal standards, not external praise. If you constantly find yourself looking for approval, it's time to let go. Success should not be defined by how many people notice it or how much praise you get. It should be defined by the value it brings to your life and the fulfillment it gives you. Stop letting other people's opinions dictate your happiness. You don't need their validation to know you've succeeded. 6. Stay focused on the long game. One of the biggest mistakes I used to make was getting too caught up in short-term wins. I would hit a small milestone, feel great about it, and then lose focus on the bigger picture. I was more concerned with instant gratification than with long-term success. But Stoicism taught me the value of patience and persistence. The Stoics, particularly Seneca, believed that true success is not about quick wins, but about the steady pursuit of long-term goals. This shift in perspective changed everything for me. Instead of chasing every opportunity that promised quick results, I started focusing on building something sustainable, something that would last. When I stopped being distracted by short-term rewards, I realized that the real growth happens when you stay committed to the long game. It's easy to get sidetracked by the excitement of quick achievements, but those are often fleeting. What matters most is the discipline and resilience you develop over time. I began to think about my success in terms of decades, not months. What would my future self thank me for? What kind of life did I want to build long-term? These questions helped me stay focused on the actions that would pay off in the future, even if they didn't give me immediate gratification. Success isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And when you keep your eyes on the long-term goal, you're less likely to be swayed by short-term distractions. You become more strategic, more patient, and ultimately more successful. 7. Let your actions speak louder than your words. There was a time when I would constantly talk about my plans, my ambitious goals, my big dreams, and how I was going to make it all happen. I would tell anyone who would listen, imagining that just by talking about it, I was already halfway there. It felt good to share, to get that encouraging nod or pat on the back. But the truth was, I wasn't accomplishing nearly as much as I was talking about. That's when Stoic philosophy hit me hard. The Stoics believed that actions speak far louder than words. They taught that talking about your plans before you've even taken the first step does nothing but create an illusion of progress. I realized that every time I shared my goals, I was getting a false sense of accomplishment. I felt like I was doing something, but I wasn't. All I was doing was talking. Epictetus famously said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." This advice became a game changer for me. I stopped telling people about my goals and focused on quietly working toward them. And what I found was that not only did I make more progress, but I also felt more fulfilled. When you're not seeking approval or recognition, you're free to work on your goals for yourself, not for the praise of others. I also noticed that by keeping my plans to myself, I became more accountable. There was no one to pat me on the back just for dreaming big. The only validation came from the results of my hard work. When you let your actions speak for you, those actions carry more weight. People start to respect you, not because you talk about what you're going to do, but because they see what you've already accomplished. If you're someone who constantly talks about your plans, try staying quiet for a while. Let your success be your voice. Work in silence and let your results do the talking. It's a much more powerful way to live, and it removes the need for validation or recognition. You'll find that the satisfaction of achieving your goals in private is far more rewarding than the temporary high of telling people what you intend to do. 8. Don't compare your success to others. I used to be constantly comparing myself to others. I'd look at what someone else had achieved and feel like I was falling behind. Whether it was a friend's career success, someone's fitness journey, or a colleague's financial gain, I'd measure my own progress against theirs. It didn't take long for me to realize that this comparison was not only unproductive, but it was also toxic. The Stoics were wise in advising against comparing ourselves to others. Epictetus taught that each person has their own path, and the only person you should compete with is yourself. He said, "There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will." When I started to internalize this teaching, everything shifted for me. I realized that comparing my journey to someone else's was a waste of time and energy. We're all on different paths, with different challenges and different timelines. What works for someone else might not work for me, and vice versa. Instead of focusing on what others were doing, I turned inward and focused on my own progress. Was I better today than I was yesterday? That became my new standard for success. It's easy to get caught up in the social media age, where everyone is constantly showcasing their highlight reel. But I've learned that true success is deeply personal. It's about aligning your life with your own values and goals, not someone else's. When I stopped comparing myself to others, I found more peace and clarity in my journey. My progress became more meaningful because it was mine, not someone else's. If you find yourself comparing your success to others, take a step back. Remember that their path has nothing to do with yours. Focus on your own journey, your own goals, and your own progress. You'll not only find more peace, but you'll also discover a deeper sense of fulfillment in the process.